Hi, everyone. How does the Watchtower silence anyone who disagrees with them on anything? They call them opposers, unclean, out of line with the organization, hypocritical, evil, and nowadays apostate or poison. They cut off those who object and prevent their being heard by slandering them. So here's some more from Preparation. Page 244. Let the opposers take whatever course they desire. This is not the time to try to bring opposers back into the fold, but it is a time of faithful service to the Lord. The opposing prophets who speak lies in the name of the Lord are outside the temple, and those of the temple have nothing in common with them, because the opposers are unclean. Then they quote 2 Corinthians 6:17 and 18, and I should say Rutherford quotes, "Wherefore, come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord. Touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and I will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty." If such opposers and elective elders are in the majority in a company, let the minority, who are faithful and true to Jehovah God, withdraw or separate themselves from the opposers and go on in peace doing the work of the Lord of the temple. The work the Lord of the temple has assigned them to do. So I thought that was just an interesting quote. It shows you that there was a large group that disagreed with the changes that were being made, and yet it's the minority. It's that small group of Rutherford followers that he's calling the faithful ones. On page 318 of Preparation, Christendom, or organized Christianity, is hypocritical and selfish in the extreme. There is no real love amongst the peoples that make up that crowd, and none of them have any love for God and His kingdom. Selfishness is in absolute control. The entire crowd is against Jehovah. Therefore it is written against Satan and Gog and his organization, and I will call for the sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith the Lord. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. On page 325 and 356, still in Preparation, the Lord has used His message of truth to separate the pretenders, well, there's another word He uses for us, pretenders, from those who are really devoted to Him. Thus Jehovah has revealed the man of sin, the son of perdition, who claim to be of God's organization, but who in fact are of the synagogue of Satan. He has revealed the selfish position of the elective elders, and whose chief purpose of holding such a place amongst God's people had been for their personal aggrandizement. The cleansing of the temple results in gathering out all of such, and they are no longer permitted to have a place with the faithful, but end up with the evil servant class. The message of truth has brought Christendom and her clergy clearly into the glare of the light, so that all who desire to know the truth may see that Christendom is hypocritical in the extreme and a part of Satan's organization. Also, all who oppose God's witness work or who fail to refuse to have a part therein are aligned with Satan's organization. The clergy are the most reprehensible of all the elements that go to make up the governing powers of the world. Cleansing or claiming to be teachers of the Word of God, their duty was to ascertain the truth and explain it to others. But instead, they have caused the rulers of the earth to commit fornication with an apostate church system, and have made the people drunk with their false doctrines. And this he refers to Revelation 18:3. The commercial and political rulers admit the ecclesiastics to their councils. These ecclesiastics have practiced a fraud upon them, because they are not in truth, and in fact the representatives of God that they have claimed. One thing you should notice is all the propaganda methods are employed here. You call people names, you make accusations, but you state them as facts. You never give any evidence or present any real evidence of what you're saying. Just say it, and say it often. This thing about that I noticed here, it says they no longer permitted to have a place in the faithful, but end up with the evil slave class. The message of truth has brought Christendom and her clergy clearly into the glare of the light. And then it says that they oppose God's witness work. The Apostle Paul opposed people who spoke a message, a gospel message that was different than the one he had received. So if the church opposes the witnessing of the Watchtower, this is another trick of propaganda. Just say they oppose something, and then you make it seem like they're just out to get you for no reason. But if you're proclaiming something that the early church did not proclaim, the apostles did not proclaim, then of course they are going to say, no, that's wrong. So the way they've put it, it's, I guess a comparison I would make, it would be like saying somebody who is a health dietitian who tells you you mustn't eat junk food, claiming that they're telling you shouldn't eat. That's just not true. But if you make that kind of accusation, people would know it was silly. But somehow organizations like the Watchtower make all kinds of claims, and people don't think about, well, is the opposition because we are preaching? The church has been preaching forever. The church has been spreading the gospel. When Jehovah's Witnesses came on the scene, when the Watchtower came on the scene, they didn't have to introduce people to Jesus. Jesus was well known around the world. People knew his name, and they knew what had happened to him. They were preaching about his death and his resurrection. So the opposition that they're talking about is an opposition to producing a different gospel than the one that the early church presented. At this point, there was one more quote I was going to read you from Preparation. It's the last one from Preparation. Page 360. For without the dogs, commercial DDs, and sorcerers, and those who poison men's minds against God and his kingdom organization, and whoremongers, those who go back into the world and who sell themselves to worldly things, and murderers, brother haters, or haters of those who had once been their brethren, idolaters, and whoever loveth and maketh a lie. So this is rich, I thought, because they kick people out of their organization and then they call them the haters of the brethren. Nothing has changed. At this point, I thought I would recommend a book that I read when I was leaving the Watchtower. David gave me a book that wasn't directly about Jehovah's Witnesses or cults, but it got the point across. It was a book by George Orwell called Animal Farm. I would really recommend reading this book if you're in the process of leaving or considering leaving, because this book is a short read and it will tell you the history of the Watchtower, even though it's not about the Watchtower. It was about governments. That's what George Orwell was writing about, totalitarian governments. But you would definitely make connections if you were reading this book. And it is a book that is worth considering giving to someone who is a witness, because it's not directly about them. They would probably read it. It's a good read. It's a story. It's in the form of a story of animals that kick out the farmer and take over the farm, and what happens to them and to the people to the animals on the farm, and the different positions they hold. Just to give you a taste, I'll give you a few quotes. No one believes more firmly than Comrade Napoleon, who is the leader, that all animals are equal. He would be only too happy to let you make your decision for yourself. But sometimes you might make the wrong decision, comrades, and then where shall you be? That was one of Napoleon, the leader, one of his sidekicks who was telling this, Squealer. Another quote, "Comrades, do you know who is responsible for this? Do you know the enemy who has come in the night and overthrown our windmill? Snowball." Snowball was also a leader within the group. But Snowball gets kicked out by Comrade Napoleon. So that just gives you a bit of the story, what happens when you have two leaders that are not like each other in the way they get things done. Then there's one of the followers who says, "Napoleon is always right." That becomes his maxim. He continually thinks, even when something doesn't sound quite right, Napoleon is always right. So I could see through this right away that this was the way I was living. I was living this kind of life. And I hadn't recognized it, but stories oftentimes are the best way to get people to wake up. I'm going to link to a review that I did of Animal Farm early in our recordings. I did one on Animal Farm. So it gives you a little more of the story and why I think it makes good comparisons. And the second one is one that we did recently called 15 Million Stolen Lives.